Greetings, class. I hope that all of you guys are being safe and taking good care of yourselves, keeping up with this course. I'm using this video to go over the Horatio Alger essay that we read about this character named Dick. This is a chapter from a book, and Horatio Alger was an American writer. He was writing in the 1800s, and he had these Charles Dickens type ideas of these kids who grow up in poverty and they become rich. Very, very famous author. And he was working, this book is about a character. His name is Ragged Dick. And yes, that's what it's called. I'm not making this up. And at this point in the book, in the chapter we're at, this character is doing pretty well. It starts by saying he has more than $100 in the savings, right? He can take a holiday. So he's doing pretty good. He's a shoe shiner, but he's frugal, he's taking care of himself, he's educating himself, and he's put himself in a position where he's starting to gain capital. And so what happens at the very beginning of this book? He's on vacation, and he's on a ferry, a boat. And while he's on this ferry, there is a character. His name is Little Johnny. I'm not making this up. It's in the chapter. And Little Johnny falls off this boat into the river. Now, there's a rich guy on the side, and it's his kid. And he's saying, I will give $10,000 to whoever will save my child. Now, that father is on the other side of the boat. Nobody can hear him. However, Dick, he's just a noble character. He's a good guy. And what he does is he decides he's going to jump in this river and save this kid. And so he starts swimming toward this kid, and he sees a kid go down once. The kid goes down twice. And on the third time, he magically scoops him up out of the water. Now, this kid is heavy. He weighs a lot. And Dick is trying to drag him to the shore, but the kid is heavy, and Dick goes down once. He goes down twice. And on the third time, there's a rowboat nearby, and they come and save him. Right? Now, he's taken on this boat, and he's given new clothes and all kinds of other things, and he's later rewarded. He's rewarded handsomely. And what the book is, what this chapter in essence is really saying is that miracles can happen, and if you work hard and you're a good person, good things are going to happen to you. And I think it is possible, but I think one thing to ask yourself is, how many people have ever known somebody who saved somebody's life and got a lot of money? I hear stories about this sometimes, but it's pretty rare. I actually have a friend who did CPR on a dying person, broke his ribs, and the family tried to sue him. So sometimes you're better off not saving people in our culture. But what this is saying is that luck only happens to certain people, and the odds of something like this ever happening in your life is extremely, extremely rare. Like you might have better chances of getting hit by a meteor than something like this happening to you. Now, that's important to hold on to, because in another essay we're going to read, it talks about how Horatio Alger was building a myth, and he was creating this story that wasn't realistic, and nobody really called him out on it. And so essentially that's what I'm saying, is that this story is not realistic. The odds of this happening to somebody are very, very slim, very, very rare. Now, what happens in this story is there's the rich father. His name is Rockwell. And once Dick has saved his child, he reports to Mr. Rockwell's office, and he is told to write his name. Now, Dick has been practicing writing penmanship and writing his name for a long, long time, and he's able to get this job, and he's able to hold his speech. He gets rid of the slang. He doesn't say bully or something like that, and so he's presentable. He looks professional, and he's been working for these things. He's been striving to obtain these things, and then Mr. Rockwell gives him a job making $10 a week. $10 a week, and he says that if you advance, I'll pay you as much as I can. Now, I find this interesting in the story because for a moment, this guy was on this boat yelling $10,000 to whoever saved my child. And you never hear somebody yelling that. But it's interesting because instead of getting $10,000, Dick got $10 a week. And I've thought about this story a lot. I'm like, did Dick get robbed, right? Did he get robbed? $10,000 is a ton of money. Now, there's two ways to look at this, right? Now, in the long run, he might make more than $10,000, right? This guy's rich, he might make more. But another way to think about it is $10,000 in the 1800s was a lot of money. So, for example, I've done research on this. You could buy a house in Chicago for $500. To go to Harvard at that time cost about $200 a year. So basically, you could go to Harvard, buy a house, and still have $9,000 left over. That's a lot of money. But if he would have taken the money, maybe it wouldn't have worked out. Because if you watch people who win the lottery, there used to be this TV show called The Curse of the Lottery. And if the people who win the lottery just make dumb decisions, they buy crazy things that they don't need. There was a guy who won the lottery, and he was on the cover of a magazine. He had his stomach in a wheelbarrow, and all he decided to do was eat candy. That he had a whole house full of candy, and things like that. So maybe he was better off getting the $10 a week and working towards it, but I do find that interesting. And a couple other things. At the very, very end of this story, Dick decides he's going to hold on to his shoe shining stuff. Right? Because he wants to remember. He wants to remember where he came from. And I think that's important. I actually think that's a big part of the American dream, is to remember where you come from, remember your roots. I think that has a deep tradition in American culture. And another thing he does is he realizes that these kids stole his stuff. I think they stole his clothes. And Dick says, you know what, I'm going to let them go. They're better off with it than me. And it just is re-emphasizing this idea that if you're a good person, you work hard, good things are going to happen to you, right? And I think there's two versions of the American dream. There's a Cinderella story, that if you work hard, you're a good person, good things are going to happen to you. And there's another version of this story, which is a Godfather or a Scarface, that if you do these horrible, most egregious things possible, you're going to go really far too, to an extent. But this is more of the different spin, the positive spin on the American dream. There's a couple things I didn't mention, and it's going to come up in an essay we're going to read next, and that is, one thing Horacio Alger didn't do in his book that he is attacked for by another writer is he didn't talk about circumstance. So the question is would Ragged Dick have been rewarded that money if he was an African American? Certainly not in the 1800s, maybe not today either. Or if he was a woman and he saved this child, would he have been rewarded with that money? Or what if he had a physical disability? What if he was blind, right? Would he have been rewarded that money? So the truth is that this is this is a white male protagonist in this story, so he's able to get rewards that maybe other people wouldn't get in this story. And I think that's a big point. And I like this essay because it complicates an idea. And if you ask most people, they would say this, that if you work hard, you're a good person, you will go far. And I think that's deeply entrenched in the American dream. Tough paper topic, but it's a great conversation piece. And I think it's complicated. I think here's my thoughts. I think you're probably better off being a good person than being a bad person, because bad people, it seems like things come to get them at the end. It's also a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. And I think today you need to work with a lot of people to get far. And if you're treating people with kindness, you can get a lot further than being mean to people. And let's be honest, if you're not working hard, it's going to be hard to achieve anything, unless you have a really rich family. So I do buy into it a bit, but here's a short story. I remember I graduated in 2008. During the height of the recession, and I had a master's degree, and I said, this is my time. I'm finally going to become rich. I listened to what everybody said. I have the degrees. It's time to go out and make money. And I was very naive because I didn't know that we were in a recession. And I remember my first job out of school, I was working at Starbucks with a master's degree, along with a lot of other master's degrees at that point. And I was driving cars. I think I was working 90 hours a week, just trying to pay off student debt. I was getting married and I was trying to make a lot of money. And I remember one day I was driving to school and my stomach hurt. And I decided to ignore it because I didn't have health insurance. And what had happened was I'd ruptured my appendix. And it ended up costing me $30,000. And so essentially I graduated college, owed about $30,000. And then in a week, in the span of 6 months of graduating school, I ruptured my appendix and now I was $60,000 in debt. And I remember sitting on my couch and thinking, I listened to this module. This model. I worked hard. I worked very hard to accumulate these degrees. I've been a good person. Never even got a speeding ticket. And yet here I am. And it seems like I applied to this idea and it just wasn't working out. Now, I'm not saying I'm not happy about where I'm at today, but I remember in that moment I was really questioning this, and I'm setting this up because the next author we're going to read really questions this ideology as well. So, I think I like this story because it really has the spine of the American dream, is that if you work hard, you're a good person, good things are going to happen. And I think there's some truth to that, but I think it deserves questions. And so that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, please contact me at bprenowitz@yahoo.com. And thank you for listening.